They were trapped in Dubai.
So there's a few things that start to drive me crazy about Dubai in a while.
Years into their ordeal, Marcus and Julie Lee were at breaking point.
Look, he's still driving over the middle of the road.
They were desperate to leave the country, but Marcus, facing serious fraud charges, couldn't.
Anyway, Eric, can you get me in that suitcase that you're leaving with today?
And Julie wouldn't.
I'm not going to leave him, absolutely. He's done nothing wrong, he's been punished. We've both been punished, and it's like, no, I'm going to stick it out because this is something that you've got to fight for.
On Australia Day 2009, Marcus Lee had been called to police headquarters for a few questions.
Then I started to get a little bit concerned where one of the more senior guys looked at me and looked a bit frustrated and said, "You're lying." So I thought at that point, yes, this is going to be a different day.
That different day turned into 2 months in solitary confinement that nearly killed him, and 7 months more in Dubai's violent, overcrowded prisons.
It was just a riot. It was a 24-hour-a-day riot.
At least the jail time had an end. The courtroom drama that followed seemed endless.
They have an ability here to just delay and delay and delay and delay, and we'd dutifully turn up every month. We'd have a court hearing, a court date once a month, and it'd just get held over to the next month and to the next month and to the next month.
It's the sort of place where it can take 9 months for you to be charged or bailed, and then your trial just meanders along for 5 years.
This is exciting.
Tonight we go inside the claims of a multi-million-dollar fraud as key players tell their stories for the first time.
The truth will come out.
Did you keep half the money as they claim?
No, that's one of Sunland's lies that they continue to push.
So you wouldn't be scared of Matt Joyce suing you?
I love that. Please bring it on.
It was a boomtown that built the world's tallest tower. But from here, all they can see are the limits of their lives.
DFAT are actively involved, but there is still a genuine line from them that, well, we can't involve ourselves in other countries' legal affairs, just like...
On our third visit to Marcus and Julie Lee, they were starting to wonder if they'd ever see home.
Now we're into another year, so this third year, and it's just exhausting.
So when New Year's Day rolled around, did you think this will be the year?
No, I just went, it's another year.
The authorities had forbidden Marcus to work. He spent his days on a treadmill.
We try to do a bit of exercise and try to keep mentally sane, I guess.
Julie found part-time work as an accountant, but spent most of her time poring through the case, preparing for hearings that would almost always be postponed.
Oh, crazy is not the word. You continue doing many marathons in your mind all the time, how to navigate through the system, and we're learning every day about what to do, what not to do. We question ourselves what we should have done, shouldn't have done, but we just continually hit walls, it seems. 27 hearings now down the track in total. we're still yet to really lodge our defence, which is what we really want to do.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Marcus. Hi, Julie.
The only way to see their families was through the internet.
Yes, I was sick for probably about 9 months or so.
Marcus's mother, Carol, was trying to hold things together in Sydney. Her mother and her husband, Alan, Marcus's stepfather, had died as the case ground on. Marcus wasn't even able to leave for the funerals.
Just hoping every day and praying every day that Marcus and Julie will be home soon.
Obviously, I'm very worried for them. They're under such immense pressure that it is having an adverse effect upon their health, but I've no doubt that they'll just keep soldiering on the way they have for the last 4.5 years.
Brisbane lawyer John Snedden took on their case for free, lobbying politicians across Australia for help and travelling back and forth to Dubai.
They don't start a trial on a Monday and work for 8 hours a day for as many days as it takes until it ends. Everyone shows up for an hour and comes back in a month or 2 or 3 months for another hour. And so there's no end in sight. And the legal system is such that you can have an entirely different panel of judges determining the merits of the case than the ones who actually heard the evidence 3 or 4 years earlier.
Making matters worse, a court-approved Emirati who'd gone guarantor on Marcus's bail was shaking them down for more money. He was threatening to revoke his guarantee, meaning Marcus would be sent back to prison.
We've paid him in total probably about 60 or 70,000 Australian dollars. The actual worst thing about all of that, he actually doesn't threaten me, he threatens Julie.
The court's still taken no action against him?
No, our lawyer raised it with the judge at one point, and it was quite strange. The judge thought it was quite funny, either in disbelief or maybe he did find it funny.
Dubai had seemed a place of endless opportunity when Marcus and Julie Lee moved here in 2006. The ruling sheikh was positioning the desert city to be the Middle East's business and travel hub. Marcus had scored a job as commercial director on the biggest project of all, Dubai Waterfront, run by the state development company Nakheel. It was going to be a whole new city on the southern coastline.
Well, you're in property, and look, these opportunities only happen once in a lifetime, and how many other times in your life will you get asked to contribute to build a city?
But by 2007, much of the colossal development site was empty, except for the odd trail bike. Boom-time speculators were continually snapping up land plots and reselling them for profit without building anything. So it was a relief when an Australian developer arrived with a genuine passion to build.
The market in Dubai, it was very exciting, as you call it. It was hot as well.
Suhail Obedien's company Sunland is best known for its iconic Gold Coast buildings D1 and the Palazzo Versace Hotel. It wanted to construct a landmark twin tower at Dubai Waterfront on a land plot called D17. Problem was, another Australian developer named Angus Reid appeared to have got there first.
We did ask about the ownership. They did say that the block belonged to this individual.
Sunland claims the managing director of Dubai Waterfront, Matt Joyce, said they'd have to negotiate with Reid's company Prudentia to get the land. Sunland paid Prudentia $14 million to cede its development rights so it could buy D17 for itself. But even Sunland's tower never got off the ground. The global financial crisis killed the whole project stone dead. Suhail Obedien soon concluded he'd been dudded.
They have received unlawfully 14 million from us that they were not entitled to.
Dubai officials investigated the payment and concluded that Prudentia had never had any development rights to sell, suggesting Sunland had paid $14 million for nothing. Angus Reid had already left the country, but police arrested Marcus Lee and his boss Matt Joyce on suspicion they were part of the alleged sting. All three men denied any wrongdoing, Marcus Lee insisting he'd had nothing to do with the deal.
Did you do this?
Of course not. Sunland bought it of their own free will. I was not involved at any time into their arrangements with any other company. Yet, because I wrote a business case report for the board that was approved by the senior management, it's alleged that I've partnered in the so-called crime.
While Sunland didn't initiate the prosecution, John Snedden maintains it was barracking from the sidelines.
Sunland sent along their lawyers to 30 court hearings, and they would go along and sit in the gallery, sometimes bringing their families, like it was a sporting event. Their lawyer, at the end of the prosecution case, stood and shouted to the court that Marcus and the other defendants should be convicted, and they should be imprisoned, and they should be given the maximum jail term.
Look at this shark looking. They're looking at you.
It is too.
Marcus Lee was furious he'd been caught up in this prosecution and cut all contact with his former boss Matt Joyce. There had never been any hard evidence tying him to the contentious deal, and all agreed he hadn't been paid a cent. Eventually, even Sunland would concede he played no part in their scenario.
Only during the court case, when the evidence emerged, when our lawyer had the opportunity to look at everything, then later on, almost 1 year later, we find out that maybe Marcus has nothing to do with that.
Yet Marcus was still on trial.
Yes, for a deal that they did that I wasn't involved in. So it's not only I went to jail because of their misstatements, I went to jail too for a deal that they did with somebody else.
Suhaila Bedian also pursued Matt Joyce and Angus Reid in Australia, accusing them of misleading and deceptive conduct. It was a disaster. Victoria's Supreme Court ruled Sunland hadn't been tricked into paying $14 million. It had paid it to make Prudentia walk away, so Sunland wouldn't have to share the profits. And the judge was scathing about Suhaila Bedian and the head of Sunland's Dubai operations, David Brown. He called them unreliable witnesses, tantamount to saying they were liars. Under cross-examination, David Brown had conceded he made false statements to Dubai investigators.
To be blamed as a liar or as somebody cannot be trusted, it is hard. But do I know that is not true? Yes. Do my friends know? Yes. Do my family know? Yes.
We were stunned. And the first time we heard about this is we opened a newspaper. We were sent a newspaper overnight and the headline was something like, "Witness admits giving false statements to the Dubai authorities."
False statements that put you in jail?
Yes, yes. So do you think the prosecutors will call us today or this week sometime?
It'll be this week.
3 days before Marcus was due to lodge his defence, Sunland finally sent his lawyer John Snedden a letter confirming it had no complaint against Marcus.
The first letter was received in April of 2012, so more than 3 years after Marcus had been arrested. It was after Marcus had served time in jail. It was after 3 members of his family had died. It was after the evidence in the Australian court case had closed, and it was after the prosecution had closed its case in Dubai and Sunland's lawyer in Dubai had demanded that Marcus be convicted.
What would you like to say to Suhaila Bedian?
He's